Here in France, the trial of jihadist Mehdi Nemmouche continues. The Frenchman is accused of holding French journalists and aid workers hostage in Syria for the Islamic State Group. Prosecutors have called for a life sentence without parole. The verdict is expected to be out later today. France 24's reporter Antonia Kerrigan standing by outside the Palais de Justice, and we can speak to her now. Hello to you, Antonia. First of all, remind us the details of this case.
So today on trial in the building behind me are 5 men, 2 of whom in absentia as they are presumed dead, but without concrete proof of their death. They are still standing trial. They're on trial for the kidnapping, detention and torture of 24 Western hostages, 8 of whom died in detention in the basement of an eye hospital in Aleppo between 2013 and 2014. Among them, as you mentioned, Mehdi Nemmouche, who was identified, later recognised by some of his former victims, or alleged victims, I should say, 4 French journalists, in fact, who recognised him as one of the most cruel of their jailers. Also on trial, Abdelmalek Tanem. He admits he was a bodyguard for the man who ran this prison, but he denies having any knowledge at the time of the hostages being held within. There is also Kais al-Abdallah on trial today too, of Syrian nationality, who was recognised in the years since he arrived in Europe as a senior high-ranking ISIS official in Raqqa, something he denies vehemently. The other 2, of course, presumed dead, have not answered to the charges. Everyone spoke for the last time this morning, those 3 who are present today, and we await the verdict this evening.
And Antonia, today the defendants gave their final remarks. What did they say?
Well, the first 2 men to speak were extremely brief. Kais al-Abdallah maintained, as he has throughout the trial, that this is a case of mistaken identity, while Abdelmalek Tanem appeared, or at least wished to appear, repentant for his involvement in the Islamic State Group. Mehdi Nemmouche, though, was a completely different story. He spoke for at least 10 minutes in a rapid-fire monologue that he'd clearly written out and prepared very meticulously. He made no explicit reference to the charges he's facing of kidnapping, detention and torture, but made instead a geopolitical speech. He said terrorists have less blood on their hands than the USA. He said, yes, that he was a terrorist, but no, he would never apologise for it, that he regretted not a day, not an hour, not a single act. It's worth mentioning that he is in prison for life regardless of the outcome today, as he was convicted for a shooting in the Brussels Jewish Museum in 2014. So this should not be seen so much as his defence as his propaganda. Court appearances are, of course, his only opportunity to speak publicly now that he is incarcerated. And according to his victims, they're in many ways an opportunity to cement the status that he apparently so covets in the sort of pantheon of jihadism. He wants to go down in history as a significant, consequential figure in this terrorist movement.